Bonjour from Tours. May has finally arrived and the weather has been very fickle. Sun, rain, clouds, you name it, every 10 minutes or so. But today it's a sunny day, and today I'm very happy to be here because one of my favorite places in Tours has recently opened. I am sitting at my favorite guinguette, local guinguette. We have quite a few, and we have two on the other side of the river, on the left bank. On the right bank here we have the best one, I think. It's called Tours Plage, Tours Beach, and it is right in the middle of nature. You can see the Loire behind me, the wild birds are flying around, I can hear the wind in the trees, it's quite lovely. You can come here throughout the day to enjoy a glass of lemonade, a glass of wine, some food, whatever you want. There's no music here, it's pretty quiet right now, and I like it because I feel like I'm in the countryside, though I can just walk home in about 5 or 6 minutes. The Guinguettes are an institution, and they appeared in Paris, outside Paris in fact, in the 18th century. And by the 19th century they had become very, very popular. At that time, merchandise that went into Paris was heavily taxed, and so the villages around Paris, places you know today because they are part of the city, Montmartre, Belleville, Ménilmontant, all these villages around Paris had affordable wine and food. So it was not just the working classes or middle classes who came to the Guinguettes to have a good time, it was also the bourgeois from Paris who traveled to the outskirts of the city to have a great time. The Guinguettes started as dancing places, des bals populaires as they said, and then you would go there to have some cheap food and cheap wine, and the wine was really cheap. In fact, it was a very bitter white wine they called le Guinguet, and that's where the name of the restaurants came from. So over time they developed and they grew, and typically a guinguette would be found by a river. So in Paris it was the Seine River, of course, and it was also other rivers, for example La Marne in the eastern section of Paris where I used to live and that I love. Joinville-le-Pont, cities like that had their guinguettes, and it was easy to travel to the outskirts on Sundays because the train arrived, and with the train everything was possible. The Guinguettes lived until about the 1960s, and at that point a lot of rivers were polluted, and so local authorities prohibited the use of the rivers, no more swimming. And of course that was a big problem because part of the attraction of going to a guinguette on a Sunday, a sunny Sunday in the summer, would be to also indulge in swimming and water sports, etc. So they declined and disappeared slowly, one by one, and a few years ago there was a revival of sorts, and I think people now are really anxious to get back to enjoying themselves, and especially after what we went through in the last few years. And the Guinguettes have just popped up everywhere. I call them the neo-Guinguettes. You can find them in Paris, you know a few of them already, like Rosa Bonheur, which can be found in Les Buttes-Chaumont or on a barge along the Seine River downtown. But here in the Loire Valley we have quite a few of them along the Loire. You can find a guinguette in Amboise, a guinguette in Chinon, and Tours has several. So like I said earlier, there are a couple on the left bank of the river, and I'm standing now on the right bank, and this is my favorite one. We call it Tours Plage. So the guinguettes last just, like summer. They're like they disappear magically in the fall. Some of them will last about 5 months, the other ones about 4. This one will close probably in the first half of September, but for now it's only May, so there's plenty of time to enjoy it. So if you come to Tours or the Loire Valley, do look them up because this is a very French institution. They're quite popular, Les Guinguettes. And this one here is Tours Plage. So I'm going to turn around a little so you can see behind me, see how close I am to the river. And then behind me is a little booth where you can get your food and drinks. And people sitting, reading books, enjoying themselves. La vie est belle, friends. I hope you do consider visiting a guinguette here in the Loire Valley when you come over. À bientôt!